Coming up on Network Africa, South Sudan rules out rebel leader Macher rejoining the government. And Ethiopia expresses willingness to hold talks with Eritrea to resolve a long-standing border dispute. And the World Health Organization says the Ebola outbreak in DR Congo has largely been contained. Hello and welcome to the program. I am Bisi Adibayo. We begin today in South Sudan, where the government has rejected rebel leader Macher's return to the country. He is to be relocated to a neutral country outside the region as part of a deal to end more than 4 years of civil war in the country. President Salva Kiir also rejected proposals to work together with his former vice president in any transitional government. However, regional leaders meeting in Ethiopia have called on warring leaders to begin to act towards bringing peace back to the country. Both men met for the first time this week in almost 2 years, and a new round of talks is expected to take place next week in Sudan and Kenya.
We all have said enough is enough. We all have vowed never again. Now the time for promises over. We need to act, and time is not on our side.
Thousands of South Sudanese has been killed, and hundreds of thousands more have been displaced from their homes and homeland. All eyes are focused on your will to make the dream of peace in South Sudan possible. Failure is simply not an option. South Sudanese have suffered way too much and for far too long.
We urge all parties at this point to stretch for an agreement in the interests of the South Sudan people. However, I should caution that the international community will actively support an agreement only if it is sustainable and implementable. The conflict in South Sudan cannot be allowed to drag on, inflicting further deaths and destruction as agreements break down.
Joining us now is a senior lecturer of political science at the Lagos State University, Dr. Wale Aderemi. Thanks for joining us on the program. The South Sudan government has ruled out rebel leader Macher joining the government, saying that they've had enough of the man after 5 years of war against his group. What impact is this likely to have on the peace deal initiated? Okay, we'll return to the conversation with Dr. Aderemi in a moment. But in another peace development, Ethiopia is preparing for a historic summit with Eritrea. Although the topic of discussions between the two nations has not been revealed, the Ethiopian Foreign Minister Macher says that his country is willing and ready to welcome the Eritrean delegation. The U.S. government has praised Ethiopia's decision to fully accept and implement the 2002 Border Commission ruling, which awarded disputed territories, including the town of Badme, to Eritrea. In a statement, it says the measures will yield greater prosperity and security, not only for the citizens of Ethiopia and Eritrea, but also for their neighbors. And in Central Africa, the World Health Organization says it is optimistic that the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo has largely been contained. The Emergency Operations Manager for the organization, Michelle Yeo, adds that if the situation remains the same over the next month, the country will be declared Ebola-free. Officials say that no new case of Ebola have been recorded in the 3 hotspots of Mbandaka, Bikoro, and Itipo, where the outbreak was first reported.
From this, we can say that the situation is more or less under control because we have not, we did not have any positive cases since 6th of June. However, there is a need to continue the surveillance because we could have escaped some of the contact due to the terrain because it's a rural area with difficult access. We have to agree with all the authorities and the scientists that we are on the same line, that we can't, based on these well-known last positive cases. So we shall wait again for some days. It could be toward maybe the last weeks of July that we can be totally confident that this outbreak is over.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Jean-Pierre Bemba is expected to return to DR Congo next month for a party congress to select a candidate for the country's December's presidential vote. Mr. Bemba, whose war crimes convictions were quashed last month at the International Criminal Court, is currently free in Belgium pending a hearing on a separate conviction for witness tampering. The former rebel leader and vice president left the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2007 and spent the last 10 years in prison in The Hague. And the U.S. State Department has imposed visa bans on a number of Congolese officials accused of corruption or electoral malpractice. Without naming those targeted, the department says the move intends to send a strong signal that Washington is committed to fighting corruption and to supporting credible elections. The Democratic Republic of Congo is to hold a much-delayed presidential election in December to choose a successor to Joseph Kabila. His second and final term in office ended in 2016, but many suspect he's trying to remain in power.